Hey, welcome to the Jerry White Show. Got a great one as promised, and it's going to be a fun one, man. We're going to go back and talk some old school football. We're going to transition that into talking about what it's like raising unbelievably talented football player in his own right and business. And I think it's fitting that with the passing of our coach Lou Holtz, maybe we'll have some Lou Holtz stories. And without further ado, a lot of people in Alabama and the South been waiting for this one. Marc Edwards, welcome.
Hey, great to be here, Jerry. Always good to talk a little football and relive the old glory days.
Man, and somebody that don't know you, I know there's only one or two people that don't know who you are. I was talking to somebody.
A few people remember, buddy. As the years go by, maybe less and less.
Well, they wanted me to explain to you who you were in your skill set. The best way I could say who he is, man, this dude was an elite blocker, an unbelievable pass catcher, and Lou Holtz once called you one of the greatest teammates that he ever saw. That may be the best statement anyone can ever make.
Yeah, I took pride in being a well-rounded fullback, which meant, obviously first and foremost was blocking for the tailbacks, but also at Notre Dame, they gave me the ball a little bit. I averaged, 7, 8, 9 carries a game. The years I was starting, caught 2 or 3 balls out of the backfield. So I really kind of likened myself to Tom Rathman back in the day as a well-rounded fullback that could do a little bit of everything. And that's really what I prided myself on.
Let's talk a little bit about Coach Holtz. Obviously, he's gone on in to be with the Lord. And you talk about someone who loved Notre Dame and was very, very – he loved his family, but he loved his faith. And you put Notre Dame in that. There's no one better to represent the University of Notre Dame than Coach Lou Holtz. Yeah,
the thing about Coach Holtz was when I was playing for him, I didn't always like him. Right? And it's probably a common theme among a lot of his former players. But as the years go by, I always wanted to get back and see him and spend some time with him and things like that. And the thing that he did was he put so much pressure on you during practice, especially as a young player that had to play. And I played, a significant role my freshman and sophomore year before moving into the starting role as a junior and senior. But I distinctly remember him really emphasizing the little things, right? So I'd be in my stance, and if I took a lead step instead of a crossover step, or if I took a crossover step first instead of a lead step that I was supposed to take, regardless of the outcome of the play, I could score a touchdown, I could run over 3 guys. He was down the field chewing my behind out. So, it's one of the biggest things that stuck with me from Coach Holtz, that if you take care of the little things, the big things become much easier. So, with that said, at the same time, as a young player, I absolutely dreaded going to practice because I knew he was going to chew my backside out. I didn't know what it was going to be for, but I knew it was going to happen. And back then, and maybe still now, I don't know, but back then, the offense practiced on one field with the scout team defense, and Holtz was always running the offense. And 2 fields over, the defense, first team defense, was run by Bob Davie those years.
Sure.
Rick Mentor my freshman year, but Bob Davie the following 3 years. And whenever I would make one of those little mistakes that didn't seem so big to me at the time, he would send me down a scout team, and that was like the walk of shame or the jog of shame, so to speak. I wore a path between the first team offense and scout team my first 2 years there at Notre Dame. But he'd always call me back up, after a period or two. Is Mark, you can't help me down here. Go down there and help our defense get better. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, that was and like I said, always trying to get back and see him a little bit. The last couple of years, I've got to see him a couple times a year, which was nice. The last time being at the national championship game, January a year ago when they played Ohio State in Atlanta.
Yeah.
He rented out a restaurant for all his former players, and I got to go spend a little time with him. My son went with me as well. So that was a really nice experience. And then at the Ohio State game, when they played in South Bend 2 years previous, we got to spend some time with him as well, along with my entire family. So those are all
special.
I got pictures on my phone of them and refer to them quite often.
No doubt. Let's talk about your playing days a little bit. You blocked for some legendary running backs at Notre Dame. We'll get to the NFL. I don't get to talk a lot of Notre Dame football here, so I'm going to. Well, while I have you, we're going to talk about it. Talk about some of the guys you blocked from it. How good was AD?
Well, we'll go before that a little bit. The Lee Becton. Lee Becton was a junior my freshman year, and there were a couple games. Ray Zellers was the starter, and Ray got hurt a couple times. But I mean, I played a fair amount even when Ray was in there. I was backing Ray up my first couple of years. Learned a lot from Ray Zellers. Great fullback. Played in the league for a long time, New Orleans, and I think he might have went somewhere else later in his career. But 7, 8 years, whatever it was. But got to play with Lee Becton, who maybe ran a 4.75, downhill with the wind behind his back, but he could juke you in a phone booth, and he was just a great tailback. And then two of the guys that I came in with, Randy Kinder and Robert Farmer, both had solid careers in Notre Dame. They didn't make huge numbers, but they both started some games, ran for some yards. And then obviously you get Autry Denson. So Autry comes in as a freshman my junior year when I was in a battle that year because Jamie Spencer came in and everybody was telling me he was the next Jerome Bettis and this, that, and the other. And I was the heir apparent to start at fullback. I've earned that job. I sat behind Ray for a couple of years and I played and started some games both my freshman and sophomore year. But AD comes in and he's a corner. So I believe, I don't believe he came over to the offensive side of the ball until like after the Vanderbilt game or something like that first year. Okay. Or no. I'm going back too far. But he started out as corner in camp and then they moved him over at some point during camp and he just kind of, I think that first year, like in 95, I want to say he had about 700 yards. I had about 700 yards. Randy Kinder had about 700 yards. Robert Farmer had about 400 or 500 yards. It was just a real committee type backfield. And that kind of propelled Autry into bigger and better things as he got to be a sophomore and upperclassman.
He's still the leading rusher in Notre Dame history, right?
As far as I know, yeah.
I think so, yeah.
I believe so.
If Jeremiah Love would have stayed one more year, we may not be having that same conversation.
Yeah. Jeremiah, I think I was like 7th on the all-time touchdown list for Notre Dame, and now I'm 8th because of Jeremiah. So
still saying top 10 in that list, you're doing something right. You're doing something right. Hey, and I get a lot of questions here coming down. I'm just gonna just spot throw some of them to you. Some of these Alabama Auburn fans, their question will not be read today.
Hey, you know what? I can talk to any fan base, and I'm happy to.
Me too, but I'm some of these are personal, right? Some of these are personal.
Personal to you or personal to me?
No, personal to me. No, not for you, not to me. I'm the guard here. I'm keeping everything on the positive. Yeah. I will say that the Alabama fan just said Notre Dame deserved the '93 national championship.
My goodness. You know what? I went down to play for the Jacksonville Jaguars my 7th year in the league. And so I'm right down there in Florida State, Florida territory. So, but yeah, we might not have deserved the national title that year, but they didn't deserve it over us. That's for darn sure. If you remember what happened that year, Nebraska was undefeated and West Virginia were both undefeated. West Virginia went down to the Sugar Bowl and got drilled by Florida. Florida State played Nebraska and beat them in a close game. We went to the Cotton Bowl, played a really good Texas A&M Wrecking Crew RC Slocum team. Right. They only had one loss. And the only thing we didn't do was blow them out. Everything else, kind of fell into place. at the very least, we should have been the coaches champion. They should have been the AP champion. But you saw this year that all of a sudden head-to-head mattered again when Miami gets in over Notre Dame.
Right. And, I'm a proponent that head-to-head should matter. I really do. But you cannot convince me that Notre Dame was not one of the 12 best teams in the country. But as people reminded me, that's not the way the playoffs were set up.
Well, they need to be one of the best 10, right. Which I still think they should have got in over Alabama. But, at the same time, when you lose a couple games, no matter how you lose them, whatever, you leave it up into interpretation. And, if you got to go out and you got to win the games, and that way you take it out of people's decision making.
And that's what Coach Marcus Freeman, that's his stance this coming year. It's going on a leave no doubt tour. And that's his approach. Hey, we should have took care of our own business. Had we, you have to leave no doubt. And that's his mentality.
And some people might forget, but it was also mentioned quite a few times that holding call against A&M when they tackled our defensive linemen on that touchdown pass on 4th and forever.
And it wasn't even close. I mean, it was a WWE
It was a takedown, and it was just flat out missed. And, that one play cost Notre Dame an opportunity.
And the fact that I was upset at the officials that next week sent Notre Dame a letter saying they missed that call. I think that's even worse.
Well,
that's in the wound there.
Yeah, that's pretty much irrelevant at that point.
Exactly right. All right, a couple more questions here. What is on the college level here, what is your most memorable game that you played in?
Well, it's twofold. Obviously, the Florida State game in '93 was memorable.
Sure.
Because it was 1-2 game of the century. We won in kind of dramatic fashion. Actually, we were kicking we were beating them pretty good. We let them back in the game and won on a dramatic play, knocking Charlie Ward's pass down.
Right.
But I wasn't a major player in that game. I played, but I was a freshman. Didn't play a huge role. So, as far as games that I played a big role in, both the Texas game in '95 and '96 and the USC game in '95. And probably that USC game in '95 was maybe my best all-around game. USC came in, I think, number 5 in the country, 7-0, something like that. It was we had won 11 years in a row, and then we tied them a year. And this was supposed to be the year they finally broke through and beat us. John Robinson came back, Keyshawn Johnson's senior year, and they came to South Bend, and we just put a physical whooping on them. And I had a pretty good all-around game, 3 touchdowns, and ran for a couple 2-point conversions, threw for one, had a few catches as well. So it was a great all-around game, and one of the bigger wins as a major player while I was at Notre Dame.
Here's a question from I don't recognize the name, but it's got by the question. It has to be a coach. Would you rather score a rushing touchdown, a receiving touchdown, or get a pancake block on a linebacker and then let your running back score a touchdown?
Well,
several, all 3 of those in several games. So
yeah. Ideally, I'm running the touchdown and running over somebody as I'm getting the touchdown. So I combine all of that.
Sure.
But at the same time, I'm pretty happy with all those things. But I come from an older school mentality. Now everybody wants to score the touchdown and be the hero, and the guy who lead blocks is kind of an afterthought. But the selfishness in me still wants to score the touchdown, but I want to do it in a physical manner. How's that?
Sure. But these days, especially in the NFL game, fullbacks, the special teams players are making Pro Bowls for blocking and just using those skills.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing. Let's talk about NFL. At what point did you knew you were good enough to play in the league?
It was probably my junior year when things got off to a pretty solid start midway through. Obviously, that's something I always was in the back of my mind since I was a kid playing peewee ball. And
Sure.
as a youngster, you know, it was always, hey, I want to be a pro football player when I grow up. But obviously the odds are against most people of that happening. I think it was like 0.003% of high school player, 0.03% of high school players actually make it to the pros.
Yeah.
So very, very far-fetched. You don't think about that as a kid. You just say, hey, you know, I see these guys out there and that's really what I want to do. But as I was having success my junior season, I realized like, you know what, this is becoming more and more of a realistic possibility. So
you were in the 97 draft?
Yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about that
last season.
Yeah. Let's talk about that draft. Take me through your draft day. And then when you got the call going to San Francisco, I mean, from a fullback in mine and Jeff Underwood's studio for Kapow, I have a Joe Montana, San Francisco jersey. Right next to it, I have a Tom Rathman autographed jersey. When you think fullbacks, man, that's who I go to. What's it like?
You know, speaking of which, I'm kind of jumping the gun here, but my running back coach for my 2 years out of San Francisco was Tom Rathman.
Wow.
So that was awesome. Learned so much from him. But going back to draft day, I had finished Notre Dame in 3.5 years, tested out some things, summer school every year. So
that's impressive in its own right.
Yeah. So I was done with all my classes, and the second semester I was training, went down to what is now the IMG facility. It used to be called the Voluntary Sports Academy.
Right.
But I was down there. I was one of the first groups that went through there for combine.
I'm sorry, was that still in Bradenton, or was that
it's still in Bradenton. It's at the IMG facility.
Okay.
You know, where the high school is now. But back then it was called the Voluntary Sports Complex. It started off as a tennis facility. Anna Kournikova and a couple other people were training there when we were training there way back in the day.
Dick Vitale.
Yeah, exactly. So go there for training, go through the combine and all the workouts back in Notre Dame and all that. So I was just waiting around for the draft, and I ended up going back home to Cincinnati and had my draft party at the Montgomery Inn Boathouse downtown, which is a famous rib restaurant right down there on the Ohio River in downtown Cincinnati. So we get there at noon. Back then, the first round, every pick was 15 minutes, and they took every bit of 15 minutes. So, I'm going through, it's, we start at noon, we're eating, we're having a good time. All my friends are drinking and having a good time. And I'm like, I'm not having anything. I need to get this call. Then we'll go out, we'll celebrate, whatever. So hours are going by, right? Finally get to the second round, like at 5 p.m. or something like that, 6:30. I mean, it was really dragging on. So we're halfway through the second round, and it's like, I don't know, 8 o'clock now, 8 p.m. And the restaurant did not have ESPN2, and the coverage switched from ESPN to ESPN2. It's either 7 or 8 o'clock. I think it was 7 o'clock, right? And I'm like, the owner, Dean Gregory, who's a friend of mine, was frantically on the phone with the cable company trying to get ESPN2, but nobody, the place was packed, and we had no idea what was going on. So anyway, in the midst of all this chaos, Dean finally says, hey, Mark, you got a call. So we had a little table set up with the phone, and 3 boxes of hats, had all the hats in there. So I pick up the phone. Oh, hey, great. Yes, sir. And like, nobody knows who this is because nobody could see it on the TV. Right.
Sure.
So everybody's screaming, who is it? Who is it? Who is it? And I'm not saying anything. Right. So I'm on the phone, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, whatever. Hey, thank you so much. I'm so excited. Yeah. And what I didn't know is they wanted me there the next morning. So I had to, they were going to call me back in 15 minutes, right, to make flight arrangements to get out of Cincinnati and get all the way to the West Coast and all that. But so I hang up. Nobody knows who it is except me and the owner of the Montgomery Inn. So I finger through all the hats in the first box and didn't see it. Fingered through all the second the hats in the second box. Saw it, but didn't do anything. And then kind of figured, looked through all the hats in the third box. Went back to the second box, popped the hat on, and the place went crazy, and it was a lot of fun. So, but when it happened, they called me back a little bit later, said, "Hey, these are the travel arrangements." So I ended up going out that night with all my friends, and I was the designated driver. Didn't have a sip of alcohol the entire night, and I didn't even sleep. My flight was like 7 a.m. and we're out, at the bars and hanging out till 4 in the morning. And then by the time I finally did get back to my hotel room, I was so excited I couldn't sleep. I just was just sitting there staring at my eyelids, and then the alarm goes off, and thankfully I got a few hours sleep on the way out to San Fran on that long flight. But that's my draft story.
Heck yeah. Yeah. This time of year, as I'm neck deep in mock drafts, and of course I got Kevin Costner's draft day playing behind me, I'm really into it. But when I look at the running backs in that draft, you got some Hall of Famers drafted. That was a good class. That's the Warwick Dunn class, right?
Yeah. Warwick and I were the same year. Tiki might have been that same year as well. I forget. I know Antoine Smith, who I ended up playing with in New England, was
Reggie Brown. I think was 97.
Maybe
it was a great class. It was a great class. Did you know Tiki Barber?
I never met him. Just knew of him.
I've just heard some great stories about him. He's really a good dude. I'm hearing. Yeah. So full circle, NFL. I don't think people realize that NFL and college is a total different game. Maybe more closer then. Talk about the difference and how you knew you were in a different world.
I thought the jump going from college to the pros was bigger than the jump going from high school to college.
Wow.
In my opinion. Yeah. Just the speed and the viciousness of the game is so elevated. The game's fast in college. It's much faster in high school, obviously. But, you get some guys that, make college teams that, maybe they were just bigger than everybody else, but they weren't necessarily as athletic. Maybe they played against really, really bad competition or whatever. They make it onto a college roster and just never really do a whole lot. Whereas everybody on the NFL roster has been vetted and vetted and vetted again. And I mean, even the practice squad guys are this far away from, the all-pro guys. I mean, just everybody big, fast, strong, vicious. But it's a much more violent game in the pros. And I mean, they've taken a little bit of that away with not letting them, the hits. But I mean, I was back in the, John Lynch days when, guys were getting decapitated. So, but yeah, that's the biggest thing. It's just the speed and violence of the game picks up significantly more.
Let's talk a little bit about some of your pro days. I mean, that was an era of pro football that you were in where it was the physicalness that you were known for. You were known to be violent and physical, but you had a style to your game that I don't think you got the credit for being the athlete that you were, frankly.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure I was very athletic, but I was a high effort, high try type guy that would, do the dirty stuff as well. But I think one of the reasons I was able to play 9 years was because I really knew the game. I didn't make mental mistakes. So, for example, I could see how the defense was lining up, and I could tell if my backer, or my corner, whoever I was responsible for in pass protection was coming or not, just by the way the defense lined up, right? So, if somebody walks over your linebacker, why is he right behind the linebacker? Well, because the linebacker's blitz and he's got to take that guy's space, right?
Right.
So I was able to get myself in a better position to block that guy because I wasn't hesitating. I was getting right to where I could meet him closest to the line of scrimmage, give him a less amount of options to juke me or run me over or whatever. So I just always got myself into the best position because pre-snap I knew what was going on. So that's, really, I think one of my strengths. But once again, it was just doing the little things as well, right?
You got phenomenal hands. Phenomenal.
Catching a few. They'd throw me, a few little bones out there in the flat from time to time, or a couple screen passes just to keep keep me hitting people in my head for a living, right? So yeah, but like I said earlier, I kind of really wanted to be an all-around fullback, not just a one-dimensional type guy, and that's what I really focused on.
Sure. And another question here. This is certainly coming from a local coach. Who was that one player that you did not want to block, that you just knew, maybe you didn't not want to block him, you just knew this is going to be a lunch pail game all day. It's going to be a battle. Who was that guy or
that
guys
was
for you?
Pretty easy. I never minded blocking big linebackers because I could always get under their pads. They weren't super fast, so they weren't like explosive. So I could always get a good stalemate and maybe even, push them back a little bit. Like guys like Levon Kirkland, right? Enormous middle linebacker. But the guys that really gave you the most trouble were the smaller linebackers, like linebackers of today's game. Back then, a guy named Jesse Telgel out of Atlanta is a good example. He was 5'11", maybe 230-ish, probably a 4'5" guy, but he would get low, and it was so hard to get under his pads. He would just ring your bell. So every time you had to go up against him, like, oh man, we got the Mike ISO play lined up again. I'm like, hey, time to bring it, sell out. I know it's going to hurt, but you got to do it. So, but guys like him and safeties, like big safeties, were tough to block too. Like guys like Donovan Darius, who I actually played with in Jacksonville. But I mean, they were like big linebackers back then because you didn't have to be as athletic, right, as you do in today's game. I mean, strong safeties now are almost like corners back then. But the smaller guys that were 6 foot, 5'11", 6 foot, anywhere from 215 to 230 that were fast were the toughest guys to block.
Yeah. And you've let me see, you live in Florida. Did you get over to watch any of the time? You get to see any of the Notre Dame guys playing for Tampa Bay or Atlanta? We got Xavier Worthy.
But there's a couple of the guys like Jack Kaiser.
Sure.
That play for the Jags.
Jacksonville.
So I'm in Jacksonville, so I got to go down and see some of those guys play a little bit. There's a couple of I believe there's a couple of Notre Dame guys on the Jaguars, but I don't follow it that close. I just go and kind of enjoy the games.
Well, let's switch over to something I know you're excited about, and that's being a father. Right? I see the videos and the stuff, and you just light up when you talk about your son. From a football standpoint, he is a dude. A sophomore, he's starting to really roll in some offers and get the respect. But when I watch him play, I see his ability to just want to compete. Every young kid don't want to compete. They want the starter, but they don't work for it. There's a couple games like that, the 8 touchdown game that he had, that he broke Derrick Henry's record. There was a couple times that he could have ran away from somebody, and he chose to run into him. I'm like, I know who your daddy is. Let's talk about Xander a little bit.
Yeah, he well, for one, he's a much more athletic player than I was. People always ask me, compare, contrast. I said, you know what? I was probably a better football player because I was an all-around guy, and I played defense in high school and things like that. He's a much, much, much better running back. Granted, I was a running back in high school. I was never a running back after that. But he's much more athletic. He's bigger than I was at the same age, and runs really hard, but he can also run away from people. I mentioned a little bit kind of beforehand, he just ran a 4.50 at the Under Armour, so it was an official time.
That's a digital,
Orlando, which would have been the 8th fastest time at the NFL Combine. So that's moving for kid that's 6'1.5" and he's 200 pounds. But one of the things that I really am proud of him about was his freshman year at Bowles. He was 215 pounds and was a bigger back, and he played quite a bit. He ran for, I don't know, 550 yards or whatever. He really didn't start playing much till the second half of the season. He kind of had to earn his keep because there were two seniors in front of him. So after the season, he gets up to about 230, and he's just big, right? We go to some of the camps, Notre Dame camp. We go to Clemson camp, South Carolina, and he's doing well. He's the best running back there, in my opinion. Dad tries to watch it from an unbiased perspective, but I thought he was the best running back at all the camps that he went to, even though he was just a rising sophomore. But he was running about a 4.7-ish at that time, and a couple of the coaches came to him and were like, "Hey, you play defense?" They're seeing him as a linebacker because of the way he moved and all that, and that kind of struck a chord with him. So I was telling him, like, "Look, man, you need to, if you want to stay at running back, this is what you got to do. You got to get more explosive. You got to get that speed back. They're not too many 250-pound running backs in college.
Yeah,
right? That's not what they're looking for. It's a different game. Like, back when I was playing, yeah, you had some bigger backs. Very few bigger backs nowadays.
Right.
Outside of Derrick Henry, who can fly, but he's also 6'3". You don't see that many big backs. So he kind of took it upon himself from the middle of June, when he was 225 now, to the start of this season in August or whenever it was, he got down to 200 pounds. And it wasn't Dad pushing him. It wasn't me, meal prepping for him. It was him. So that's really, when I knew that he was super determined, and he was taking this serious. And first game, he goes down. We play in the Broward County Showcase in South Florida against South Florida team, and he 12 carries, buck 57, 2 touchdowns, and was done by the middle of the third quarter. So I had a great game, and there was one play where he kind of took it to the outside. Some DBs had an angle on him, and he just put it in second gear or third gear, or whatever it was, and left him in the dust. So yeah, a lot of 70, 80-yard runs this year taken to the house, and so he's got the speed, he's got the size. So and he's working even harder now, which really makes me very proud. Right. Getting up, he goes to speed training before school like 3 times a week, and then he does some stuff during school. He has weights during school. Their gym classes, weights, right? Yeah. And then training and more speed agility training after school. So
I want to talk a little bit about his stats, because you look at his stats, which they were tremendous, but they're deceiving because there's a lot of games he didn't play a whole lot in the second half.
Yeah. Well, there was a couple games there's 2 games he played the first quarter, and that was it. One game he had one game he only had 4 carries for 60 yards and 2 touchdowns, and then they took him out with 10 minutes into the game, right?
Yeah.
But he ended up with like 2,600 yards, over 2,600 yards, and 44 rushing touchdowns this year. Led the state of Florida in both, and on a state finalist team. We end up losing to a really good Cardinal Mooney team.
That's a national team.
They did a little better job recruiting than we did. So, but they were very good. Former Notre Dame tight end quarterback Jared Clark is their head coach.
Right. So there's a kid on that team who's committed to Notre Dame now, right?
Elijah Golden.
Yeah, DB.
Right. And he was good. He was a difference maker.
Yeah, I heard that. And let's talk about competition level. The competition in high school football in Florida is as good as anywhere in the country.
Yeah. They say a lot about playing the South Florida teams, and we had Cardinal Gibbons come up in the state. They're a Miami-based team or somewhere down south there. Played them. We played some teams from the Panhandle in the playoffs. There's some decent local teams in Jacksonville that we play on a year in, year out basis as well. So, but it's good to play those teams from South Florida. They hear about all the speed and all that stuff, and we took care of business most of the year this year, so just couldn't quite close it out.
Is this in your opinion, another state championship caliber team this year?
We're close. We lost all 5 linemen. We have one guy returning that played a whole lot. We got a couple of guys transferring in.
Okay.
How the O-line gels is really going to tell the tale, but we're really good everywhere else. Got another, I know we talked about Xander being a sophomore All-American in Rivals and both Rivals and Max Preps. We also have Asher Ghetto, who is a sophomore All-American on the defensive side. He's got like 55 offers. I think Xander's got like 21 or something like that right now.
Well, what is, and I asked you this, a couple of months ago, what do you and Xander look for in a school? Obviously, I want him to go to Notre Dame. There is no other school. That's what I want. But obviously, it's not about me, of course. It's about and you didn't even got to name the schools, but give me the kind of schools that intrigue, because I know academics are very important to you.
Yeah, that's very true. And if you Google Xander, some of his interviews he's done, or YouTube, whatever, he always says that, hey, football's going to end at some point, and I need to make sure education is there. But we're looking where, obviously it's going to be up to him where he wants to go. People say, oh, if Notre Dame ever offers, he's going to accept right away. I'm like, no, that's not the case. We're going to go through the recruiting process, and we're going to see where the best overall situation is for him. Now, that definitely includes academics first and foremost, but the alumni association, how many of their football players graduate, right? How good is the team? Are you going to have the chance to win? Are you going to have the chance to compete? What's the depth chart look like? And then obviously NIL does play a role in today's game.
Sure.
Fortunately for Xander, that's not going to have to be a decision maker for him like it is for some kids. But at the same time, you have to be stupid not to consider that in the equation. But as of right now, the teams that have offered Xander, Miami, Florida, he really likes. Vanderbilt is a big one. Florida State is a big one. We've heard that the Florida coach came earlier. This new Florida coach Summerall came to offer him. Xander was out of town, so we think Florida is really high on him as well. He really likes that program. Clemson, I know they don't do any early offers. Right. But they have expressed, hey, they basically told us, hey, he's our 2028 guy we're going after. So Clemson is one that he's really interested in as well. And, if Notre Dame starts showing some more interest, then I'm sure that way they would be up there on that list as well. But up to this point, it's just been kind of lukewarm.
Well, I know for a fact, and I won't give away all my sources, but I know for a fact how much he's coveted at Clemson. John Gross was an offensive analyst for Clemson, who's now the head coach here at Sanford. And we had a conversation about him. So he was very well thought of in that Clemson camp.
We had a very good conversation with the wide receivers coach, Grisham, who also is the recruiting coordinator. And he really sold us like, hey, we want you there in June for a reason. Yeah. And we're going to roll out the red carpet for you. So
and let's look at Vandy. Let's look at the Notre Dame connection there with Clark Lee, who's an Alabama guy, Birmingham guy.
Oh, you know what? Clark Lee, a great guy. When he was a defensive coordinator at Notre Dame, I would always go up for the men's fantasy camp in the summer. Yeah. And Clark, being an old fullback, at Vanderbilt, he was in high school, I believe, when I was playing fullback in Notre Dame. So we're sitting out there on the field. He's like, Mark, come up to my office for lunch. After lunch, let's just talk Notre Dame football. Let's just talk football and, all that. So went up there, spent an hour and a half just, shooting it back and forth, and just a great, great guy. So, but yeah, Xander
so
did go to the Vanderbilt Missouri game this past season, and their coach offered him then, the running back coach Mills, I think's his name. So they really like him as well. So that's good. But Indiana is another one. He went up. No, Mills might be Indiana. These coaches they're all over the place.
Sure.
Yeah. They talked to him, before the game against Wisconsin. He went up for the Wisconsin game. And then after the game, they take him all the weight room. Coach talked about, how much he would fit into their program and how much they like him and things like that. And then offered him, right there on the spot. So
that's huge. Signetti is he's an interesting guy.
Yeah. And you know what? Like the craziest thing, I never thought my son's first offer from Indiana, the state of Indiana, would not be Notre Dame. But hey, things happen how they're supposed to happen.
Coach, I'm making a call. Just know I'm going to reach out. We're going to make that happen. Well, and we'll get back to Xander's. I have one or two more questions, and I won't keep you much longer. You're so gracious with your time, but I'm fanboying a little bit. You're my dude. Yeah. So I've been waiting a long time to get you on the show. What are your thoughts on Marcus Freeman and the staff he's putting around him and kind of the trajectory of the program currently at Notre Dame?
Very, very encouraged. Those first couple of years, I was a little concerned. I think he got the job a little premature,
right?
Due to the circumstances. I get it. But the one thing he did was he did surround himself with experience on both sides of the ball for coordinators. But, you saw some of those really bad, ugly losses, the NIU, the Marshalls early in his career. And, those were some of the growing pains, I think. But at the same time, since the NIU, I think it was NIU loss.
That's right.
They ran the table, played the title game, and really should have at least made the playoffs last year.
Agreed.
So the way he recruits, the passion he does it with, just really seems to fit today's student athlete. And he's doing the right things. He's saying the right things. He's showing up for the other Notre Dame sports. And it's just the path that he's taken seems like it's the right way to do things.
Quarterback recruiting has always been something that Notre Dame and wide receiver kind of been something that we're missing out on from Sam, Riley Leonard, who I'm a big fan of. He's a fan of the show. We appreciate everything he does. And now CJ Carr, he is the most talented quarterback I think has been in Notre Dame in a long, long time.
Yeah, it's encouraging that we're finally getting a quarterback from within. After the Hartman and Riley Leonard, getting that 1 year rental guy, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Granted, I love what they did and how they helped the program and how they assimilated the Notre Dame culture. But it's always encouraging when your leader comes from within, right? So CJ had 1 year under his belt, being learning the system, learning from Riley and that kind of thing. And then he came and had a pretty intense battle with Kenny Minchie, and he earned the spot. And as the year progressed, he played better and better. Would have been nice to have Miami and Texas A&M, maybe right. 3 or 4 games down the road, But even at that, at those games, he wasn't like he played poor, but he didn't go out and win the game for us either, like he's capable of. And it's nice to finally be growing some guys from within, opposed to going out and getting this portal guys. I got that quarterback position. If you need to get a couple offensive linemen, a couple big boys that you saw what the formula was with Indiana. Go get a bunch of dudes up front that are grown men, and that's that. I think it's going to be the formula moving forward.
And we got some quarterbacks coming up from Florida. I love seeing the quarterbacks come in from Florida, come into Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. Noah Grubbs. I don't know if you've seen him in person or not, but I'm so impressed with this kid.
Just saw the highlights and stuff like that. But it's good that Notre Dame still has a national recruiting presence, and bringing in from kids from Texas, California, Florida, obviously all over the Midwest as well. So
Jacksonville, Florida,
right?
Got to get him, man. I got to get him. Hey, great question here. So, what are you doing these days? What's keeping you busy?
I have a small business where we install safety systems on forklifts, kind of a black box type system that allows an end user to monitors the entire fleet online. So it makes an operator swipe a card or put a code in before the forklift will even start. They do their OSHA checklist electronically and sends out emails if there's any faults, tracks what the operators are doing, how long they're sitting on the lift, moving, idle. If they hit something, it sends out emails. It can shut the lift down. I got a crew of 7 guys that I work with around the country. But yeah, I'm actually up in Atlanta right now working at a job site. We bring 3 or 4 guys to a site depending on how big the project is, and we'll stay at Airbnb. So I'm here in just somebody's house.
Heck yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, but I've been doing this for like 15 years. Really just kind of blew up the last few years.
Yeah.
And
great question. This guy said, "Who's going to tell you no on a sales call?"
You'll be surprised, right? So, like right when I got done playing, I was trying to figure out, now that I'm an adult, what the heck am I going to do with the rest of my life? And I got into the financial world, right? Got my Series 7, got my insurance licenses, was going to kind of go in that direction.
All tough tests, by the way.
Right. And then all of a sudden, all those people that were calling me, asking for tickets and to go to the games and hang out and speak at their kids' event, weren't returning my phone calls when I was calling them asking for help.
Sure.
Hey, I'm doing this, hey, you some people, hey, can we get together for lunch? Can, come to a seminar, talk about, investment, whatever. Crickets, man. It was such a odd transition, going from hearing yes your entire life.
Yeah.
In everything, right? Everybody wanted to take you out to steak dinner when you're playing. All the girls wanted to go out on a date with you. You cut the line at the club. I mean, all that stuff, right? And then all of a sudden, I'm 32 years old, 31 years old. I'm out of the NFL, and I'm hearing no for the first time in my life. And I tell, like, when I go back to Notre Dame and talk to the kids or anywhere, I'm like, hey, make friends with that nerd down the hall, man. Because you have huge influence on him right now. And you don't know who that guy's dad is. You're going to be looking for a job someday. You're going to be looking for a career after you play football, whatever it may be. Just be nice to that kid, because you know what? First of all, that's what you should do. But second of all, you never know, like, how that's going to come back to help you down the line.
Sure. Great life lessons for sure. Hey, we're going to get out of here. I've monopolized 45 minutes or so of your time, and I don't deserve it, but I'm very much appreciative of it. Maybe next time we can get together, I can talk to Xander.
We'll get him going.
I've seen some of his YouTube stuff.
He's starting to do some of the interviews, but he still needs a little bit of help, a little more experience. So that'll be a good thing for him. But
I got it.
I also want to mention, I got a ton of time to talk about Xander already. I got 3 other daughters who are doing amazing things in their own right. My oldest daughter, Taya, who played soccer at UK. Got her nursing degree there, then went on to the University of Cumberland's and got her master's in nurse practitioner. She's working at a UK health clinic.
So she's a big fan of Kenny Minchie then.
That's right. And then my second daughter, Ella, graduated from Florida State, is about to graduate from UK law school and has already got a job lined up in Fort Lauderdale with a law firm. So that thing's going great. And then my youngest daughter, Livy, she's a senior at Notre Dame, majoring in biochemistry and Spanish. So she's already been accepted to FSU med school, where she wants to be a neurosurgeon. So all the Edwards kids are doing well in their own way. And all my daughters use their head for thinking, and Xander's more like me and using his head for hitting people. So
sure. Hey, but you talk about a proud dad. Those Xanders, man, I mean, I'm sorry, those Edwards are just
Yeah.
incredibly talented people.
They've done well. You know, we've worked hard to sacrifice for them, but they've went out and accomplished those things.
Heck yeah, that's a proud dad moment for sure. That very so when it comes football season, the girls going at it a little bit. We got one in Notre Dame, one in Kentucky, if I was saying. I mean,
Well, interestingly enough, the youngest never went to any of the high school football games or anything. She finally, like, her friends would drag her to Notre Dame games,
sure,
but she was just she's kind of a lukewarm fan. My older two daughters are both huge football fans, but they're more pro fans. They were kind of growing up during my New England time. They were 4, 5, 6 years old, whenever it was. And that's what they really remember, because that was towards the end. But they're big Patriots fans. So
I will hold that against
more so than college fans.
Sure.
But they all were brainwashed in singing the Notre Dame fight song from the time they were little. So Notre Dame was still one of their favorite schools, but they'll root for their alma maters as well. But they're not quite as passionate about it as I am.
And one thing I don't think gets talked enough about is the NFL rivalries. That's a real thing. I mean, it's talk about who was the Patriots rivalries. I'm a Bill guy, right? So
always the Bills. I mean, obviously the AFC East, right? We hated Miami, we hated the Bills, we hated the Jets. When I was there, it was when the whole kind of Parcells to the Jets, and then Belichick back to the Patriots. So there was a real hatred for the Jets because that was kind of new and an open wound at the time. But Miami was always a big rivalry because we would go down to Miami in September in the heat and we'd get beat. And then they would come up to Foxborough in December when the division was on the line in 2001, 2002, and then we'd beat them. So, but unfortunately back then, the Bills rivalry wasn't that big because the Bills were terrible in the early 2000s. Horrible. So, now that's a much bigger rivalry since Josh Allen's been there.
He's okay.
Yeah.
He is okay.
He's just okay.
I'm excited to get to the new Highmark Stadium. That's going to be ridiculous.
Oh yeah. That place was a dump.
Yeah,
maybe
there's
some historical value there, but I played there a few times. Man, it was bad.
Same thing about the Coliseum. I'm here. That needs some upgrades.
Yeah. Coliseum was bad. LSU Stadium when I played. I didn't play. I never played at LSU in college, but I played at LSU when I was with the Bears because that was the year Katrina had destroyed the Superdome. We played New Orleans at LSU Stadium, and that place was awful too. So
I saw an interview that shouldn't have got out about Brian Kelly talking about some of the stuff at LSU, but that's a whole different show. Hey, Mark, thank you so much, man. It was my great honor to have you on the show. I'm very excited to follow the Edwards family. I look forward to talking to Xander down the line, man.
We'll get him. We'll get him all queued up for an interview, and we'll both be on there. Have a good time.
Heck yeah! So I'm gonna leave you with Go Irish.
Go Irish.
Hey, thank you so much, man. That was awesome.
No worries, man.
Incredible, man.
Hopefully we didn't go too long and people get bored.
No, it's just no, man. I could do this for hours, but you get a lot of views. It's funny. I had the Secretary of State on earlier in the week, and
no kidding.
Of Alabama, and now I got you. You top him. Sorry if you're watching, Secretary.
Well, thank you so much, man. Just a different type of entertaining. That's all.
It is. Now he's good too, but he's trying to get elected to lieutenant governor. He's going to win. He's fantastic. Good. Maybe that's a guy that I can hook you guys up with.
Yeah.
His Rolodex is huge.
Oh hell yeah!
It's the only skill I have in life is I'm like Red from Shawshank. I know how to put people together. I just know people. That's the only skill I got. I got a lot of people in business, man. I'll shoot you a couple emails.
Yeah, man, definitely appreciate it.
Thank you so much, man. Have a great evening.
All right, Jared. See you, buddy.